Welcome, everyone, to VPOD.AI. This deep dive is sponsored by StoneFly, your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup disaster recovery, hyperconverged VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox cluster, AI servers, SA365, a turnkey security appliance, public and private cloud. Check out StoneFly.com for more info. So let's talk about something you probably have, I don't know, maybe a dozen of scattered around your home or office right now. Your phone charger, laptop, headphones, maybe your watch.
Gaming controllers.
Exactly. Maybe even like a rechargeable flashlight or something.
Yep.
Device chargers. They're just everywhere.
Completely ubiquitous, yeah.
And let's be honest, most of us, myself included, probably just leave them plugged into the wall all the time.
It's just convenient, right?
Totally. But the big question is that actually okay? Are there any downsides? Is it just, costing a tiny bit of power? Or could there be other things? Hidden risks, maybe?
That's the core question, yeah.
So let's really dig into this. Let's take a deep dive into the details and figure out what's really going on inside that little plastic brick when it's just sitting there, plugged in, but not charging anything.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, they are everywhere, and while they look different, they all do basically the same job. A charger, fundamentally, it's a power converter.
A converter?
Yeah. It takes the higher voltage alternating current AC that you get from your wall outlet.
Right.
And it transforms it into the much lower voltage direct current DC that your device's battery actually needs. Needs it to charge safely, efficiently.
AC and DC. Okay. I feel like there's some famous history there, isn't there? Way back.
Oh, absolutely. You're thinking of the War of the Currents, late 19th century.
Edison and Tesla?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison pushing DC for distribution and Nikola Tesla championing AC. And, well, Tesla's AC system won out for sending power over long distances, just much more efficient.
Okay.
And here's the catch. Most of our modern gadgets, especially anything with a battery, they run on DC. Ah, okay. So the power grid gives us AC, but our phones need DC.
Precisely. So that little box, the charger, it's basically the bridge.
Yeah.
It connects Tesla's AC grid to the DC world inside your devices.
Wow, never thought of it like that. So what's actually inside the charger doing that job?
Well, typically you've got a few key parts. There's a transformer. Its job is to step the voltage down.
Lower voltage, right.
Yep. Then there's a circuit, usually a rectifier circuit, that actually does the conversion from AC to DC.
Okay.
You also need filters. These smooth out the DC power signal, make it clean for the device. And then there's control circuitry. Really important stuff.
What does that do?
It manages the power flow, making sure it's correct for the device, and it also provides protection features.
Okay.
Against overloads, short circuits, things like that.
Okay, so it's actually quite a bit going on in that small package.
Definitely more complex than it looks, right? So here's the thing I've always wondered. If nothing's plugged into the other end, USB port or whatever, it's just sitting there, connected to the wall. Is it doing anything? Using any power?
That is a great question, and the answer is yes.
Yes.
It is.
Really?
Yep. This is what people often call vampire power, or sometimes standby power. Even when that charger isn't actively charging your phone or laptop, it's still drawing a tiny amount of electricity from the outlet.
Huh. Vampire power?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Where does that power go?
Well, remember those control and protection circuits we just mentioned?
Yeah.
They need a little bit of juice just to stay active. They're essentially listening, waiting for a device to be connected so they can wake up fully.
Ah, okay. Like being on alert.
Kind of, yeah. And the rest of that tiny bit of power it draws, it's typically just lost as heat, generated inside the charger itself.
Heat. Okay. So one charger might not be a big deal in the electricity bill then.
On its own, probably not. The amount is usually very small for one modern charger. We're talking milliwatts, often.
Yeah, you're saying it adds up.
Exactly. Think about it. How many chargers do you have plugged in right now? Your phone, maybe a tablet, laptop?
Uh-huh. Earbuds, watch. Yeah, probably 5 or 6, easily.
Right. So you add up that small standby draw from each one. Over time, across a whole household, it can start to contribute, maybe several kilowatt hours over a whole year. It's not nothing.
Kilowatt hours.
Oh.
Okay, that's the unit on my bill.
Yep. And it's also worth remembering it's not just chargers doing this. Lots of electronics draw standby power. Your TV, for example, gaming consoles, Even some coffee makers if they have a clock display.
Right, anything that's sort of off but still ready to turn on quickly.
Exactly. But what's really interesting here is how much better things have gotten.
How so?
Modern chargers, especially good quality ones, are specifically designed to minimize this vampire draw. They have much more efficient power management inside.
Smarter circuit.
Yeah, smarter components that basically put most of the charger into a really deep sleep mode until a device actually signals it needs power. So the vampire power from a new quality charger today is often way lower than, say, one from 10 years ago.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So a tiny bit of power, less than it used to be, but are there any other downsides, any other reasons we might want to unplug them besides that tiny power cost? This is where I feel like it might get interesting.
Yes, absolutely. Beyond just the power draw, there's the factor of, well, wear and tear, and also exposure to potential, let's say, hiccups on the power grid.
Wear and tear on a charger.
Yeah, they're electronic devices, right?
Yeah.
Components inside can degrade over time, and being constantly energized puts some stress on them, especially when they're subjected to electrical fluctuations.
Fluctuations? Like what?
Well, the power grid, while generally pretty stable, isn't always perfectly smooth. You can get minor variations or sometimes temporary voltage spikes.
What causes those?
Ooh, could be lots of things. Nearby lightning strikes, even distant ones, power outages coming back on, even just large appliances in your own house cycling on and off, like an air conditioner or a fridge compressor.
Okay.
So leaving a charger plugged in all the time means its internal components are constantly exposed to these, let's call them grid events, little stresses over its entire life.
And that constant exposure, it shortens the charger's life.
It can contribute to it, yes. Now, let's be clear. For a high-quality, modern charger from a reputable brand, the risk of serious damage from just routine grid stuff is pretty low. They have built-in protection circuits specifically for this.
Okay, so my good Apple or Samsung charger is probably fine.
Generally, yes. The design anticipates some of this, but that constant exposure might mean it wears out slightly faster than when you religiously unplug. Slightly.
Say slightly faster, but then what's the real concern?
The real concern, and this is critical, gets amplified massively when you talk about cheap, uncertified chargers.
Ah, the knockoffs you find online or at the gas station.
Exactly those. They often cut corners. They might lack robust internal protection circuitry or use lower quality components that just aren't as resilient.
So they're much more vulnerable.
Much more. To those grid spikes, voltage issues, everything. This means they age faster, sure. But more importantly, that lack of protection combined with potential component failure significantly increases the risk.
Risk of what?
Risk of overheating, short-circuiting, potentially becoming a fire hazard. That's the crucial difference. Leaving a cheap, dodgy charger plugged in constantly is genuinely risky in a way that leaving a quality one plugged in usually isn't.
Wow, okay. That definitely puts a different perspective on it. It's less about the tiny energy cost of a good charger and potentially much more about safety, especially with those cheap ones.
Precisely. Or even older chargers that might be wearing out.
Right. So what's the practical advice then? What should we actually do with all these chargers we have plugged in?
Okay, let's boil it down. For your modern certified chargers, the ones from brands you trust, the standby power is minimal, and they are designed with safety features to handle being left plugged in.
So convenience probably wins there.
Yeah, if it's convenient for you to leave that good quality charger plugged in, go ahead. You're not really wasting significant energy, and the safety risk, assuming it's in good condition, is low.
Okay, but there's a but, isn't
There's
it?
a big but. You absolutely should unplug and probably replace any charger that's showing signs of trouble.
It's like what?
If a charger feels unusually warm to the touch, especially when nothing is even charging.
Okay, warmth is bad.
Yes.
Hmm.
Or if it makes any kind of noise, buzzing, humming, clicking.
Noises are bad too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Or any physical damage. If the plastic casing is cracked, if the metal prongs that go into the wall are loose or bent, if the cable is frayed or damaged near the connector.
Right, the cable damage seems obvious.
Any of those signs mean that charger is failing, or at least compromised. It's not just potentially inefficient anymore, it's a genuine safety hazard. It should not be left plugged in unattended or otherwise. Really, you should just stop using it and get a certified replacement.
That is super clear and really helpful. So to recap, we've kind of peeled back the layers on these little power bricks. We know why we need them, bridging that AC-DC gap thanks to Tesla and Edison. We know about vampire power, which is real but often tiny in modern chargers.
Much smaller than it used to be, yeah.
And crucially, We understand the potential for wear and tear from being constantly connected and the significant safety risks, especially with cheap, uncertified, or just plain old and damaged chargers.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it really underscores the idea that choosing quality certified electronics isn't just about, how fast it charges your phone.
It's about safety and reliability, too.
Especially for devices that are literally plugged into the mains power grid all the time. It pays to go with quality you can trust.
Absolutely. So next time you walk past a charger plugged into the wall, maybe just glance at it. Is anything attached? Does it feel warm? Does it look okay? It's a quick check, but it's a good reminder about the invisible stuff happening, that trickle of power, that history lesson in AC/DC, and whether maybe, just maybe, taking a second to unplug that particular one might be worth it.
Yeah.
What stands out most to you from our chat today?
For me, it's probably the stark difference in risk between a quality certified charger and a cheap, unknown one. The vampire power is interesting, but the safety angle on the cheap ones is the real takeaway.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely makes you think twice about grabbing the cheapest option online. Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder about our sponsor, StoneFly. You can get a 100 TB immutable and air-gapped SSO NAS for $8,995. Check them out at StoneFly.com.